Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome to a brand new building series that will take place on Mondays and Fridays. It's going to nom up the Friday Cool Creator series just for a little while so I can crank out these videos in time for Christmas. So yes, you guessed it, I am making a winter level. I want this out before the 25th of December. I don't really know when this series is going to end, but it is what it is. We're going to get started with this. We're using an Infinity song. Infinity. I don't know why I keep saying Infinity. Infinite Dungeon 1 and 2. On a 4-second start offset, fade in, yada yada. Sounds nice and wintry as you fade into the level right here. My motive to build right now is mostly Remnants by Arb, which is a mega collab I took a look behind the scenes of recently. I really liked how that was put together. Everything was built in mind of the theme, and I kind of want to apply that to a winter themed level, as I said earlier. I also want to differentiate this level from my others quite a lot, so I'm going to be using more mini gameplay than normal. I've started off the level with some bumpy gameplay with a lot of slopes placed backwards and forwards in that kind of upside down V shape. You'll see right here that you'll die if you just go off the slope regularly. You gotta jump over it, which is a pretty nice fake, I think. I've made some banging gameplay going into the ball section that fits the tempo of the song perfectly. Matches that dun 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 dun. I like it. There's a lot of clicks in the beginning of this ball, but then when the higher note comes in, I've allowed that to loosen up a bit. I've got 16 seconds so far. At the end of this, there's a dash orb, which I plan to change the visual at, so there will be a fade off screen, which means there's going to be no gameplay in that part, but I think it's pretty solid for the most part until then. It just means that all of this is going to be empty until the first piano key comes back, which is about right here. There's just going to be a safe space like this, which is all going to be invisible. I'm going to do that gameplay thing where you have to hold onto the top block, and then on the beat of the song, you have to release instantly, otherwise you're going to fly up into that spike. So on the second beat of this ship section, there is a toggle orb, which I'm going to make toggle group 2, which are these blocks I've selected now. Just need to edit the special and change that to 2. So you're coming out of the ball, you hit the dash orb, you go through the cube portal, you get stopped, it cuts back in here, and then you have to go through the flying part, boom, and then you just fly through there. Awesome. I'm going to play from 0 to check if it's balanced all round. It seems to be, but I just need to check in normal mode. There are a couple of orbs you're going to have some know-how with. There's a couple of timings with slopes and stuff, but other than that, I think this level is pretty solid, like an easy medium demon. I don't think it really strays very far away from that either end. Then there's this slow ship part. Nice. I think this gap might be a little bit too tight, but I haven't actually died to it yet. I think it kind of adds intensity to the part, if you know what I mean. This is getting scrapped. I don't like it. So after I made this toggle section in the ship, I had the idea to kind of make this a caved section, which is why the structures are all like really separated and stuff, because I want to have ground spikes like these covering up this part. I kind of want to tie them into the ending right here. I want the beginning of this level to be open, bright, free, with good vibes, you know, like a breath of fresh air from the rest of the level. This ball part gets a little bit more intense, and then the level takes a slightly more dark turn at this part, even though the song stays the same. I just really like how this part breaks up the song. I feel like it's a good opportunity to introduce a change to the level. God damn, I need to nerf that pink orb. There's a tinsy-wincy UFO portal here, which requires an instant jump. I kind of made the gameplay more complex going into the second cube. I need to remember to use slopes, because a lot of this part is made just using bricks. I don't want to stray too far away from the goal I had earlier on to use as many slopes as possible. It's happening, by the way. This is finally getting nerfed. I'm going to move it half a block to the right, like so. Another influence for this level I've got to thank is Nejfu. Their level past has really inspired me to make some more innovative and creative gameplay. You probably realized I'm using a song by the same artist with a similar sound, and I'm planning to make the visuals kind of similar too in terms of color and glow and stuff. And yeah, also this level is made in a very short time span. I'm going to be making this in 2 or 3 weeks overall, which is kind of similar to Nejfu's goals with his recent levels. And also Arb's level that I mentioned earlier called Remnants, go and check that out for sure. I have a feeling this wave might be a little bit too difficult. I tried including some steeper slopes instead of just using the 45-degree angle blocks. I just wanted to vary my structures a little bit, but honestly I think it's worked out pretty nicely. Better than I expected for sure. Alright, sweet. We've got a decent transition out of the wave. It's always difficult to execute those since it's so easy to skip as the wave. You can just go straight down like that and avoid the portal completely. So now we just need our measures to stop that. So I'm going to build a pillar like this, and I'm just going to alpha this to 1 so it's invisible. Let me just see with speed hacks how easy it is to get through. Yeah, you can definitely get through there. You can definitely get through there. And that leaves me with a dilemma because I don't know what else to block off to make it possible to skip. I meant impossible, obviously. So I need to test. If you put a toggle orb here, I'm just going to make it toggle off 3, which is just going to be an orb over here. Something really obvious. Can you just hold it in the portal and the toggle will work? Yes. Okay, well, in that case, I'm going to put a spike right here on group 3. And if you hit that toggle orb, the spike disappears. Boom! I've done it. I'm a genius. I'm also going to set this toggle orb to invisible. Hey, and then we've got the intense ending right here. Well, it would normally be the ending if this was a 1 minute long level. This is in fact a 1 minute 20 long level, so there's another part to be made after this. That's awesome sync. I love that. I'm bringing back the bumpiness as well. If you don't flip here, you hit the slope. So when you hit the block, you gotta immediately flip and then flip back. This is a rare moment. It's a big moment right here. Me putting in this spider section. I barely ever use spider sections in my levels. I just don't think it provides the same kind of opportunities to flow and link together gameplay properly. But I think I've done it pretty well here with the nice transition in, that little slope gimmick, and then the transition out, which looks very visually appealing with that portal being centered perfectly in between those slopes. It's beautiful. Nice. Okay, I wasn't sure if that blue orb and blue pad thing would work. I had to use a J block for that, otherwise you would very easily be able to jump and still hit the spikes anyway, even if you hit the blue orb. Basically, the J block stops you from jumping again if you're still holding from an orb input when you hit a block. I want to have a 3x speed wave at the drop of the level, but I'm not a fan of the game mode borders that it's given me. I'm going to select the portal, check it, and then move it down to the space I want. These are the borders that I want. I'm going to put it on group 4. Then I'm going to put a move trigger further back that moves it up 2 blocks just to where it should be on 0 move time. So now when I play, there's a long space where I can fall. I really want to make use of that repetitive kick in the background, and I think this is the perfect way to do it. Some of the other gameplay has been complex, and I kind of want to make a difference here, make the drop really noticeable with some simple yet synced gameplay. I'm really scared to see how the UFO after this wave is going to play. It's a bit linear, but it gets the point across. Hey, that's awesome. I actually like that for some reason. Alright, so I have fixed a couple of things at the drop. First things first, I fixed the UFO transition so you jump into the part now. I figured it was killing the sync when you didn't jump, so I changed it so you jump but it's always consistent. And then there's this cube part, which is very basic, and then there's this wave part that syncs very nice. All you gotta do is hold there. I'm testing out this toggle orb right now. It's on group ID 5. This is also on group ID 5. So hopefully, if it works just by holding, this block will disappear. Yes, okay. Alright, so in this holding section, there is a toggle orb in the last green portal, which is set to toggle group 5. Which is just a massive wall next to this portal. So if I decided to cheat this, I would die, but if I'm holding the portal and I do it properly, boom, you get past. Boom, 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 boom. And it ends right there. That is the end of the layout. At a whopping 900 objects and a 1 minute and 21 second length, this is my brand new demon layout. As I said in the intro, building videos will go up on Mondays and Fridays running up to Christmas. I'll drop the level a couple of days before then, so keep your eyes peeled. But yeah, that's it. All I gotta do is showcase the layout, then I'll lead on to the outro. there it is. Thank you for watching this Geometry Dash building video. Check the links in the description, leave a like and subscribe, and have a good day. Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome back to episode 2 of the High Spirit building series. Thank you for all of the support on the first episode. I've got some naughty plans for this one using a blue and white colour scheme. As I said in the last episode, I want to make the intro feel more open, to be more enclosed in this ship part, and then the rest of the level is going to be a release. So I think blue and white is going to be an appropriate colour scheme to use. We're going to set the background to the plane. And honestly, this shade might just work out. Alright, as you can see right now, I have created a base for all of these objects. They're on B4 and 1 on the Z order. And I'm going to steal the background color, make a new color channel. I'm going to use 5 because it's nice and memorable. I'm going to stick these on 5, then I'm going to change the background to white. Then on B3 and 1, I want to create a low opacity black overlay, which means we're going to have to give this a group. It's using color channel 9, which is on black. Then this alpha trigger right here is going to set it down to about 30%, I'm going to say. We will move this overlay up like so. That seems about enough for me. So at the very beginning of the level, there is a move trigger that locks it to the x-axis forever. But before that, I need to offset it to the left by about 10 blocks, just so when I spawn in, the left side of the screen is covered. Okay, so with the same object, I've just tweaked the colors up a little bit to make it look nice and bright. So the black overlay is now set to 10% opacity with the right group this time. I put it on group 9 by accident. You probably clocked that. I also changed the shade of color 5 to be a lot more bright. Then to uplift this color scheme, I'm going to select that entire overlay, copy paste, give it a new group, add a new editor layer and put it on T1 and 1. Using color 2, which I've put on white blending, this overlay is going to fade off at the very beginning for about a second, then gradually as the level goes on, it will fade to a low opacity just to uplift the color and make the white tie in with the blue a bit more. I've just made a quick fix. I changed this alpha trigger to group 8 instead of group 6 because every single thing that was moving on the x-axis got changed in opacity when I don't want that. So now this previous overlay has group 8 added to it as well, and this new overlay is now working. Before it was on 0.1 opacity, then it was set to like 0.3 opacity, so basically it was 0.2 opacity, it was basically invisible. So I think that intro is starting to look quite dreamy on the fade in. It goes hand in hand with the sparkling sounds in the song, I think. I've made a further change to put the blending screen on T2 instead of T1, which means that all of the objects are affected, even the ones covering that block design. There we go. That is a nice smooth fade to white. This isn't going to turn off, so I'm going to die in a second. Okay, so now you're going to see the reason that this darkening screen is going to come into play. So, on editor layer 4, there are now some white blending glow strips that are on B3, group 6, and group 9. Group 6 is the collective lock to X move trigger, and then Group 9 changes it to 30% opacity and also chucks it on a screen with a nice easing, goes minus 20 blocks in 5 seconds. So now there's a clean looking glow strip effect everywhere in the blue space. All I gotta do is turn off the regular objects because it's kind of obstructing that at the moment. I think now I need to adjust this alpha trigger to put more opacity on the black screen because I feel like the level is far too bright at the moment. There we go, that's turning it back down a notch. But this gets uplifted anyway with the white screen, especially in the following transition to the dash orb, like so. Sweet. Now we set all of the original gameplay objects to group 1, which makes them invisible. I think I have quite successfully achieved the look of ice with these objects. I've got the shine of the blue, and I've also got a nice grey to complement it, and then it gets brighter right here as it gets more snowy. I'm going to make a new color channel on color 3, which copies the color of the background, which is white, but it's handy to have this. Using this color channel, we're going to place down some objects that are on B4 and 2 so that they display above the blocks and behind the dark overlay. We could just make a glow staircase and then mesh it together like so, put it at the edge of the block, give it group 10, and then make an alpha trigger for 10 that sets it to about 30% opacity. I'm going to put 0.35. Then we can just place this gradient piece pretty much on all of the blocks. In sloped objects like these, I could just copy paste them. It doesn't even matter if it hangs over the side because it's on the background color. So that means I don't have to be too neat about how I place this on the object as long as it's consistent. Boom, so I've placed this overlay on most of the objects, then I can go back round on editor layer 1 and just delete all of the objects that don't fall within that range. And the result of this is that the level now looks a little bit shrouded, which I like. I like that it's fading off into the light. On the very top of B3, I'm going to be adding objects of this shape with color channel 1 on both the base and the detail, and I'm just going to free move these into a nice looking place. I'm going to be free moving these into nice looking places, but first I need to copy the values, go to editor layer 8, place a glow piece, add the editor layer back to 8, then I need to go into the settings, enable link controls, and we'll just add both of these onto the same link. Now I can select this and free move it into a nice looking place on the edge of the object, and these are kind of going to be scattered into different places. None of them so the spikes can actually kill you, but I want to just have them cluttered around the edges of the blocks to make a quite original looking aesthetic to the blocks, if you know what I mean. I think it's looking pretty good. Now I hope you can see why I've got the black screen overlay in between these objects and the background. You can see the contrast between the white and the grey. It looks really nice, I think. I'm really impressed with the way it's going. I like how the glow pieces on top of these objects get brighter with the blending screen overlay that I've got. You'll see as we get to the end of this ball part, the glow gets really bright. You can definitely see it at the end there. I want to make these objects wobble up and down. I'm going to start by selecting every second object on the bottom set of the blocks. It's important that I see the top and the bottom separately because I don't want the spikes to get in the way of the gameplay. You know, it could just kill you for no reason. And I don't want any inconsistencies, so I'm going to add this to a group. Then I'm going to put these on editor layer 9 so they're separated. And this group is, what, 11? So 11 is going to move down first so it doesn't go up into the way of the gameplay. I've set up a move trigger for these objects that moves them 8 down in 2 seconds. There's also a new group 12, which is the remaining bottom groups, so the ones on 7 still. It's got the same values, it's just offset a little bit from the other trigger to make it wobbly properly. Once that process is repeated, they're going to kind of float there, as you can see. So now I'm going to do the same thing just with the top half. Just need to make sure these are evenly spaced. Then I can set them to +8 instead of -1st. Then I need to change the group IDs to 13 and 14. Here we go. Now they're all appearing to float. This is really weird to look at. I don't know. Oh man, I'm gonna have to have some other white details that can tie in with this, or maybe some other moving, floating details, I don't know. 15 is gonna be a universal half opacity group. I want to put it on some pulsing circles that use group 5 on the bottom of the bottom. I'm going to add to that right now by scaling up a glow piece to 2 times, pasting the state of that exact circle, and just putting it right on top of the orb again. We'll just make the circle 1.25 instead, and that should also display that glow effect on top. It does. Sweet. That's adding a bit of depth to it, I think, because I'm using it with different opacities. I think that's making it fit in a lot better, and I really like how that glow makes it appear differently. It actually does look quite icy as it passes over the glow because the whole thing gets tinted. Underneath single blocked object, I'm going to copy the values of those circles and just connect those mini hexagon pieces underneath. I think that's going to fit in quite nicely with the whole icy vibe. You know what they kind of remind me of? In Mario Galaxy, when you go ice skating and you get the ice flower power-up thing. These kind of remind me of those tiles that you put down whenever you step on water. I don't know, that's just kind of a mini Easter egg thing I'm putting into the level. Sweet! I think it actually works. Let's go. I tried adding some little triangles that pulse in the background. Let's try less opacity and more triangles. I feel like that might be a ticket to go. That actually kind of works. It looks a little bit crystallized in the background, which definitely helps it stop looking so bare, but I kind of like that open feel. Towards the end, when the white screen becomes really opaque, I feel like the blue kind of gets overshadowed. So I kind of want to make a pulse trigger that changes blue on a really long fade time, don't get me wrong, to like a really deep blue instead. Like, what can go wrong with a deeper blue? I don't know. That's too much, I feel. But if, that's a move trigger, that's not a color trigger, if I change it to a more reasonable blue, that could be good. So I've got an idea for some spikes on the edges of the blocks. I kind of want to just space out some little blue decoration pieces on B4 quite high up. I think they're going to have to be low opacity, but I want to test this out in game first just to make sure it's not a problem, it's not messy. As long as there's not too many, it shouldn't be an issue, and as long as they don't cross over with those little spiky things that I added. I'm probably going to wrap up the episode after I put these in. Trust me, there will be more variation in this level. It's not going to be this boring. I will try some more effects and some different glow techniques. I know this episode wasn't all singing and dancing and brilliant, but I hope you can appreciate that I've tried to do something original with it. But yeah, I think that's it for this part. I could add some air decoration, but I like the idea of it being open, and I don't want to clutter the triangles in the background. Also, in this ball part, you'll notice that I've tried some stuff with the ground and the lines. It fades to white. I don't know, I just think it's pretty neat. But yeah, that's it for Building with Wulzy episode 2. I really am trying something different with High Spirits. I've got some different plans for the other parts with different colour formats, different glow formats, different designs in general. I know there wasn't really much design in that, but I tried something with the spiky object overlaying the base blocks. Yeah. Thank you for watching this Geometry Dash building video. Check the links in the description, leave a like and subscribe, and have a good day. Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome to episode 3 of the High Spirits building series. We're back to this. Last episode we made a nice icy surrounding to set the tone for this level. I think it looks pretty good. I do need to make a couple of tweaks towards the end of it, such as ground spikes in the end, a transition out, and I also need to tweak the ground. So the first thing I want to try with the ground is deleting both of these triggers, setting the ground to white initially, and then setting the line to black blending, which is invisible. Hey, that looks a lot better, I think. Maybe not on the transition out, but I need to tweak that anyway. I'm setting up a few glow pieces to go on the gameplay borders. These are both to go on B2 and group 19. 19 needs to be initially set off like that. Then it's going to fade on as you go into the ball part like so, for about a 2-second fade in, maybe a little bit after the ball portal, just so the screen can adjust. In fact, to make things more clear, I've reduced the opacity of them to about 30%, just so it doesn't really get in the way. It just adds a blue tint to the top and bottom. That looks okay, I think. Right now, as you can see, I've placed 2 gradient pieces. They're on B3, so they cover all of the blocks and stuff in this part. Ah, they don't cover the orbs. Okay, so I'm going to have to rethink this layer. It's going to have to be on B1 and I think 13. It should also be on group 20. The top gradient will be on 21 and the bottom gradient will be on 22. So they're all going to move as this blue orb is hit. So group 20 locks to the X forever. Then 21 needs to move down about 70 blocks. I'm going to say for 3 seconds on an ease in out easing. 22 needs to move up 70 and we should get a nice exit transition. I think it needs more time on it though. That's too much. Man. Boom. I think that's just about right, and then I can put the new visual on screen as the dash orb is hit. While it was fun to experiment with the ground being white, I think for this transition it's going to be best if I have it on black. If I do this, I can build layers into this transition by taking the regular blocks, copy pasting, moving them up an editor layer, putting it on T3, and then moving each of them down by 2, and then putting them all on black. Just so that when the white screen comes up, there's also going to be a slight ground movement, which is going to build in the next part pretty appropriately, I think. So right now, just like that. Nice! In fact, I'm going to try moving these black layers 1 block closer to the center either side, just so that when the screen closes, it closes entirely instead of leaving a white patch in the middle. I think that's going to be cleaner overall, to be honest. Yeah, I feel like that contradicts the whole level so far, which is perfect because this part I want to be quite cave themed and closed in, unlike the first part. I feel like for this part I've really got to exaggerate the difference. So at this point I can select the entire level, add it to group 23, and put an alpha trigger right here that just turns the whole thing off. But then I also need to remember to go back to this layer, the black closing layer, take 23 off because that is quite important for the transition to go ahead. Same for the gameplay as well, that needs to be taken off of 23. So then at this point I can hide the player, and then the next block I can toggle those overlays which are on 20. Before that I need to turn the background to black, just like so. Instead of toggling 20 like that, I could just use an alpha trigger instead, That way it's a lot smoother when it fades away. Two more things I want to keep: the blending overlay, I'll take that off 23, and also the low opacity black overlay. And I can set the opacities right now, so I want group 8, the low opacity overlay, to be on 30%, and I want group 7, the white blending overlay, to be set to nothing. So this is the way that we're moving out of this ball part. The transition comes on, you reach the cube portal, and then boom, the level fades back on. The only thing I forgot to do is remove that hide player trigger. We don't need it. I don't know why I even thought of that. I'm going to make a few changes as well, removing all of these support platforms. I want the S block to stop right here. I guess I was using the hide player trigger because I wasn't expecting to have a fade out, but now that I do have a fade out, I can have the player visible. I can have a nice long transition like this with the dash orb visible, which is nice. I'm going to change the color of the blending screen to a blue color, 0 seconds, right at the same time as it changes the opacity and stuff. Then after, I'm going to fade it on to about 40%, something like that. That's a very brief guess. I'll tell you what, I think I've absolutely nailed the color of this. So we'll keep this value in mind, change the value to 0.2, and then we need to align the edge of this duration line with that big portal. Then same again, we've aligned the duration line with the pad. It's got a full opacity this time. Then we need to make a big fade, like 2.5, back down to that 40%, just to really bring in this part. So it should start off black, fade slowly to a low opacity, then go to blue like that. Awesome. Once again, we need to make bases for the blocks, which are just using the very plain object. You'll notice that I've included blocks in the transition before the ship as well. I don't know how that's going to work yet. This could still be invisible, but I want to do it just in case I want to factor it into this part. So apart from this big one, a lot of my structures are going in tiny little boxes. As I mentioned in the first episode, I want to really make this cave feeling strong by enclosing the gameplay with lots of slopes with spikes on them. Alright, so this ship section plays a little bit differently now because I've factored in slopes to the gameplay. I think it flows a bit better. It's nerfed a small bit, but it feels very natural to play, which it didn't at first. Like, you see how naturally this green line goes through? Apart from here, the deal is here that the ground spikes are taken off so you can land there. It's kind of incorporating the ground spikes into the actual gameplay, which I think is interesting. I've had a bright idea for the structuring in this level. All of the objects within the ground spikes are on B3 -2 on half opacity. Then above that, on B3 -1 full opacity, we've got the ground spikes and stuff. All of these objects are on color channel 1, which is white, but they go underneath the low opacity black screen that we added to 30% earlier, which makes them tinted by the blending screen overlay. At the big transition, I changed the color channel 1 to a low gray, and then there's a couple of pulses on the beat of the song that kind of make it a little bit lighter. I thought the white was too outlandish with that saturation of blue. I think this is going to work a lot better. Before I set all of my default objects to invisible, I want to format the spikes first, something similar to the ground spikes. Yo, it looks nice right now. The atmosphere is strong. Once I get my overlays set in and I get my tricks out of my sleeve, this is going to be popping. I've got some big plans to spice up this part and make it more interesting, and also tie it in to the rest of the level. So for an effect, I need to cover all of the space that is not covered by these ground slopes. But I've realized this is going to be quite difficult because some of them are half spaced. As you can see, the pinnacle is in between two blocks. So as you can see, it hasn't really made much of a difference until you scroll over to this point and you get these little rectangle shaped pieces which I need to fill with mini blocks with the same values. This is all going on B4 -1, so right behind everything, and it's also going to be black. So right now, you won't really see much of a difference because the background is black anyway, but once this changes color, I will be swapping the colors of the ground spikes and the background to make an inversion effect. And I think this pulse right here is going to make it fit in properly if I swap them on those beats. On top of these blocks, I want to add a vignette, so I need to keep B3 and -1 in mind. Anything above that will display on top. There's a black screen overlay that's on B3 and 1, so B3 and 2 will do. Just by doing this staircase like this, I can layer up some glow. I'm going to make a new color channel 4, and this is going to be on about 25% opacity. Then this glow piece on the very bottom can just be set to regular black to tie into the ground. So I've got this on the top and bottom. It's on group 24, so right with the ship portal, I'm going to lock that to the x-axis like so. There we go. By using white strips like that on the side of the screen, we can tell where the edges need to be. So for the sides of the vignette, I can copy one side of the layer 5 overlay, scale up to 2, put it on editor layer 6, something very high on the Z order so it lies above. I've replaced the borders now, and I can delete the space that is dead, that is not making it onto the screen like that, to save objects. Since the ship part will have cracks on the top and bottom like this, I need to initially have this turned off, so group 24 can be 0 opacity way before this goes on screen, and then it can fade on slowly at this point for about 2 seconds to full. A long fade time is important here, so you can't tell that it's fading onto the screen. It just kind of subtly creeps up on you. I like that. This is good atmosphere at the moment. I do want to get rid of those pesky ship particles though, and that's very simple to do. All you got to do is place a background effect off trigger, and when I play a normal mode now, there will be no particles on screen. It's looking nice and clean at the moment. So I've got myself in a sticky situation since I'm using a color channel on the pulse. Oh, so instead of 1 pulsing all the time, this needs to swap between 9 and 1, 9 and 1. Color 9 gets set to grey, so the white pulse affects it properly. And color 1 gets set to black as normal, and this is all on a 0.05, so the pulse trigger doesn't have any seams with it. So when I've copy pasted this now, I need to swap these pulse triggers back over so this pulse works properly once again. And this is what we're looking at the moment. A big inverting pulse like that, and it flips back to normal on that yellow portal. Using select filter, I need to fix the issues with the overlaying black glow that I was talking about tying to the top and bottom of the screen. These objects are on color channel 9, whereas the rest of it is on color channel 4, and I haven't really thought about this with the pulse. So now these objects that should overlay the rest on color channel 9 are a much higher Z order than they were. Now the reason that these low opacity objects aren't pulsing is because I want to keep that darkness in. If I made it all go to grey, it would look way too washed out, so I like the way it is. What if I change these color channel 9 pulses to a color channel 4 pulse instead? It's more inclusive, but it washes it out again, which just isn't what I want, and the contrast there is so much. Nah, it's staying on color channel 9. When the drums kick in this part, I've included some alpha triggers that just change the opacity of the blending screen on a 0.1 fade time, so it goes to 0.8, and it goes to 0.2, and it goes to 0.1 again. It kinda works. I don't know. This part is feeling really awkward at the moment. I want to bring back these hexagon blocks for a little bit of detail here and there, scaled up to 2 on color channel 6, so it's not on 1 and it doesn't get pulsed to the same as what these objects are. I'm going to put it on 16, which is quarter opacity, just so it nicely sits on top of the ground spikes like that. Then I can do some magic with half spacing and spacing with steps like this to make a nice little hexagon pattern that cuts off into the ground. I don't know, I think it's just going to be something cool to fill in the space a bit better. Hey! That looks cool, doesn't it? And it fits in with both sides of the inversion. Awesome. I'm also going to route them into place with a couple of ground spikes, some of them scaled up, some of them with different opacities. These spikes are on color channel 9 and they're just overlaying that area where the hexagons cover with the ground. Now I'm making a slope object to go underneath these and above this background, just to slot in quite nicely on group 15, which is half opacity. This is also going to be on white. Oh, it's not on the right layering. Just make sure it's on B4 and something positive. There we go. I think that fits in pretty well, honestly. See, the thing is, it doesn't look good overlapping other objects because this object has its own light difference to worry about. You see how it gets lighter towards the outside? Well, that's kind of ruined when it overlaps with the blocks. Right now, I'm just spacing out some classic T3 slope objects that are going to go above everything and just sit on the top and bottom of the screen like this. I think it's quite interesting to place some of the focus in color on the top and bottom of the screen and have the inside darker. I don't know, I'm trying to exaggerate this change in the level as much as possible, from happy and open in the beginning to dark and gloomy and lost in the middle. I've added some blue glow around the portals. It's the same color as the blending screen, looks pretty good when it's turned up high in saturation. So I've perfectly flown through here as the ship, and I'm going to place some little glow pieces that pulse on and off as you pass them. So you get one dot set up on group 27, and this is just going to fade on to a blue for 0.2 seconds and 1 off. Then you have them both selected and you just feed it through along with the green line every couple of blocks and just build helper this over and over again so you get a whole host of pieces of blue glue. Group 53 already, oh my god. And boom, now you get a little trail of glow to follow. Nice, I like this. Maybe I should reduce the fade time a little bit because there's a lot of them on screen at once. But look at this wiggly line of pulse triggers. This will follow the exact pattern that the glow pieces have since I copied them all together and build helped them and stuff. I didn't place the pulse triggers separately. Alright, to end the episode, I've fixed the way the colours are distributed on screen right now. Objects like the hexagons and the white slopes on the bottom were all set to colour channel 6, which wasn't pulsing between black and white, and it was just making them stand out really awkwardly on one specific side. So now they've been changed to black, which is the opposite of the block that they're currently standing on. You can really see the difference in normal mode right now. It looks a lot more refined, it looks a lot more polished. The colours just fit with each other a lot more. The contrast is nicer. I'm glad that there's not any details that just stand out too much. They all just kind of blend together and fit well without there really being a background effect to really tie in this blue and grey mix that I've went for. But yeah, thank you for watching this building episode. Check out the join button next to the subscribe button. Check the links in the description. You find my Twitter, Twitch, Instagram and Discord server. Leave a like and subscribe and have a good day. Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome back to yet another building episode on the High Spirits series. I know, I've been keeping up the Monday, Friday thing for 2 whole weeks now. Let's go. Just to reflect on the past 3 episodes, I'm really happy with the direction this level is taken. As far as I'm concerned, the first 2 parts of this level are completely done, except the transition into this ship part, since it's so bare. But yeah, this episode I want to make some stuff in this cube section slash UFO slash robot at the end here. I want to merge these into one part. First off, I want to make some base blocks for this section, just using the exact same values as the ground spikes that we made in the last episode. There's a pulse out, then this stays as black for the whole part. I'll make some different style of pulses, but this is ideal for what I want. They're kind of crooked on the edges at times, but I like the way it looks. Kind of reminds me of a couple of cliffs. You'll also see that I have covered the spaces around the gradient blocks with some black objects. I don't want any of these objects being cut off by the gradient not reaching that area of the screen. To give an example, when I stop right now, it's all good on this part of the screen, but when you look elsewhere, you can see that blocks too far under get cut off. But what you can see is that everything is shrouded apart from the top blocks, which I think makes for a really nice aesthetic. I think thematically it makes a lot of sense. It's like you're gradually gaining your sight back after getting out of the cave. So I'm going to have a primary design which covers all of these spaces on editor layer 0, and then I'm going to have secondary designs which cover the other blocks that are going behind. Big decision right now. I have put the spikes on the base layer, and we can now go ahead and select all of the gameplay blocks and make them invisible. Boom! Now this whole part has the same aesthetic as the previous slopes in the ship section. This has to change, but it looks cool for now. So exiting the ship transition, I have made the grey a little bit darker, and I want to pulse that colour up on the beats just so you get that white back into the level. You might have noticed that this colour trigger coming out of the ship section was on a longer fade time. I think it was on 10 seconds or something. I was experimenting with a gradual change in shade with these blocks, but I decided that I want them to pulse, and when it got to this point, the grey was so similar to the white that the pulse was barely noticeable, so I had to change it back to just a regular snap-in fade time, like 0.05. As the level goes into 2 times speed, I also want to change the opacity of the blending screen slowly up to a 0.65 or maybe just a 0.6, somewhere around this range, to then get faded back down to a 0.5 as it starts off in this part with this trigger. I just kind of want to embrace the speed, make something out of it. There we go. That looks very ominous going through there, doesn't it? To kind of link one part to another, I want to use these kind of spikes on the tops of these blocks to make it look a bit like icicles. Oh. Well, here comes our first problem. In my outrage of ground spikes not working, I have resorted to fake spikes because they're so much cooler. And what's nice about these is the fact that they have different opacities in them. See, this part of the spike is brighter than the bottom edge. And I think the shape of the spike works really well with the way that my blocks are structured. With these structures towards the end, there isn't really a good place to put them, so I've doubled them up like that, and I think it adds a little bit of variation. I've tried out some invisible spikes overlaying on top, which is pretty interesting actually. So right now you'll see that I've underlaid some invisible blocks that go underneath the cracks that I made earlier, these kind of slope things. I think it looks pretty decent in game, although it shouldn't be the only thing there. I think it's quite nicely filling up the space for now, giving me a good idea of what it could look like. I'm using 1 timescale object for the smaller pillars and then the 2 times for underneath. I think I'm a genius, because whenever the invisible objects are not on full opacity, when they're not in their prime, they're getting colorized by the blue blending screen. I love it. These objects were floating, but now they are attached to the structures just using some of the invisible blocks, like so. I'm also scattering some of these saws at scales 1 and 0.75. Here we have all of the saws that I have just placed. They are custom rotated to only rotate 30 degrees while they're on screen. I think it looks really awesome. You do that just by clicking on it, going in the edit special, and selecting 30 degrees on the custom right there. At the moment, everything in this level is on don't fade and don't enter. However, I want to test just with these invisible objects that are on editor layer 1, what it would look like if I took off these values. Now obviously I'm going to try a block transition. I'm not just going to have it on the regular. I'm going to use this one. It's going to make the invisible blocks kind of flip onto the screen very subtly. Now I don't know if there's much difference because by the time they reach the end of the screen they're barely visible, but if you look you can see them kind of shifting on and off. And I'm going to be using select filter to select all of the spikes and the saws to also remove these values just to see how it looks as a whole. Now I think it's very subtle, but it does make a difference because nothing really moves in this section. I could have some moving objects like some of these slopes and stuff, but I think this might actually suffice, and I think it would ruin the invisibility aspect of it if I moved some stuff. Now obviously some of the gameplay and the blocks are obscured with this overlay already, so I don't want to make things too complicated. There's a new trigger that is aligned with its duration line to this yellow pad. It's going to 0.8 opacity for 3 seconds with the blending screen. So the level should get a lot more blue before you get into the wave, and that's going to set me up in the next episode with a nice transition to work from. We'll just see it fading on right about now. You see it's getting incredibly blue, and then you pop right there. In fact, I could move this 2 spaces to the left to make room for another alpha trigger that fades on for about 0.5 to full. Maybe just 1 more. Then this can gradually fade back off once you get into the wave for about 2.5 seconds to a 0.5 again. So here we go, it's going to fade on now. Then it should go very blue in this transition like that. There we go, perfect. It kind of fits in with the sparkle sound in the song too. I might add some glow that moves up there as well. These objects are kind of strange. I don't know what they're supposed to be, but they're going to fit in quite nicely with the icy and invisible thing since they're going to be shrouded around the orbs and stuff. I think it fits in pretty well, and their rotation should probably be matched with the saws, if not reversed. For example, if I change this to -30 instead of 30. There we go. They look a lot smoother now, and you'll have noticed that I haven't put them on all of the portals. For example, this mini portal and this gravity portal, because since there's a circle left in the middle, whenever there's not an orb or something inside, like a speed portal, that's not a speed portal. That's a speed portal, you see? It just leaves like a big open awkward space, which is why I'm placing hexagons with copied values of the swirly things inside instead. And that also brings a little bit of variation to the decoration and adds a couple of pulsing objects to the part. Something I haven't really done yet, but it's quite important because the song does change here. I don't really know why, but this kind of circle decoration at the top and bottom of portals and orbs and stuff is always my go-to. It looks good enough in normal mode. I like how it mixes the decoration up a little bit, honestly. I don't know, it's just weird that I always use these and it always seems to work. Beneath some of the saws I have included some spiky decoration that's low opacity, just kind of shrinks into the background. It's not very noticeable, but it does fill in the space. So I'm listening to the song in this part and there's a noise in the background that's going. I think I could maybe run a beam of glow in the background like this, on group 63, just the next free thing. We're going to layer it as far back as possible on don't fade and don't enter. And I want to make it so that whenever it gets passed, so group 63 is going to fade in for 0.2 and fade out for 1, just to a nice light blue. We need to make sure that this is on black blending first. Alright, so I'm glad I've tested that before I have went with it, because that blue is way too bright. The solution is group 15, which is half opacity, as I've used quite a lot this episode. And there you go, there's just a little beam that's kind of lighting up the way, similarly to how I made these little glow pieces dance around, if I can find them. One of these, when I had a pulse trigger attached to it, just build helper in it all over the place. It's just a very simple version of that, which very subtly ties into the background. And I'm very glad I've figured this out, because I was looking for a way to incorporate different shades of blue into this part. And also, I give you full permission to remind me that I've done this in the previous part as well as this, when I start whining about how many groups I have used already in the following episodes. I'm sure that's going to be a thing. So here are the beams that light up as we pass them. They're not going with the music as I had planned and hoped, but they do actually fill up the space pretty well, and I'm impressed with that. Okay, so I've counted the notes that are repeated in the background, and I figured out that there's 8 different notes, which means that if I was to do a loop of some sort of pulse or alpha trigger effect, that I would need 8 different groups and objects to be repeated. I've looked in the pulsing tab, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go, I can just rotate through those pulsing objects to those little noises in the song, you know? So, same as before, black blending, half opacity. B4, copy the values, but then they all need a next free group, so 91, this love heart can be 92, and so on, and so forth. I've stopped the music so that this green line shows exactly where the next loop of pulse triggers needs to start. Before I do that, I'm going to select them all and edit the hold time. This is also going to be 0.1, just so each pulse carries on to the next, so it doesn't pulse and then the next one pulses. I want it to fade smoothly between them, as you can see down there. So now I need to set this pulse trigger as the group parent, select the rest of them, and scale them down to the point where I can now smoothly add the next loop of pulse triggers right where this green line is, and the loop will carry on, as you can see down there. Boom! I think I've banged it first try. So what group parent does, instead of working out the center of a group of objects like this and scaling around the middle, it then takes the object that you select as group parent as the center, so now you see all of this scales down around this point. And now I'm experiencing a weird editor bug where the duration lines are actually going backwards. What is going on? For good measure, I'm going to add another low opacity object into the mix. So group 15 needs to be black blending. It's just going to be a glow piece like that. It's going to have its own group 99. I'm going to copy the 91 pulse, move it up to the sky, and we'll change this to 99. We'll keep it on white, and we're going to make the fade out time 1. So every time the loop starts, there's some glow that appears briefly. It's very barely noticeable, but it does lighten up some of those shapes. As far as I'm concerned, that is the end of this part. I think that's a wrap for this weird mini section. This is probably my favourite part in the level because of how I've used the invisible blocks. And I think I'm biased towards this colour of blue. I don't know, I seem to use it in so many of my levels. But yeah, let me know what you think. I tried to use some more classic decoration pieces, like the invisible blocks, kind of make that reference to Supersonic with those kind of invisible saws. Anyway, thank you for watching this Geometry Dash building video. Check the links in the description. You'll find my Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Discord server. Leave a like and subscribe, and have a good day! Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome back to another episode of the High Spirit Building Series. We've made a backup of the stuff we made in the last episode. That's also being released as an early access level for Whizzle Sizzler channel members. But today, we're going to crack on with the wave part and the following cube. So as you can see, with this color channel on color 2, I want to change it to more of a light blue rather than a royal blue. Just like light at the end of the tunnel, this is fading up to 0.75 opacity right until this slow speed sign. I still need to figure out what happens there, but I think this level is pretty smooth so far. I like the transition in and out of this part, how it goes super blue and then it fades to the light blue the further on you get, like this. I think it's a nice touch. I think it's going to be nice to transition back into a white focused part towards the end so you get the full progression. Step 1 again today is probably structuring. I'm making a bold change. I mean, it's hardly noticeable. I'm just half spacing this structure like that, so then I can move these slopes swiftly on like so, and it will match up perfectly on the top. Then to kind of match that, I think this is going to be better off half spaced too. So now these two blocks are kind of evenly spaced between these structures. It barely makes a difference anyway, because you're spamming through there. I'm kind of building quite similarly to the Trippy Trip section with the V-shaped bottoms of these objects right here. I wonder if I could sneak a coin in here, just like the coin in Trippy Trip. That's smooth. I like it. Twice in a row as well. Let's be having you. Let's be having you. Alright, so I copied the values of the previous blocks and pasted them onto the wave structures, and there's a big long pulse that changes them from grey to white on a 4/4 fade time. Also, in this transition, there is a very subtle movement of the overlay, which just shifts up to the boundaries of the wave. You can't notice it at all. It's just on a 0-second move time. Just puts it up 20 on the Y. Just so that this part can also have the same shadowy format, but that's not all the blocks have to them. They're going to have another effect which is quite similar to Trippy, and they're going to have another design overlaying them. It's time to make that bottom layer effect, so I've selected all of the bottom blocks. We're going to copy paste. You'll notice I changed the Z order to -20 to make a nicer bottom layer. We're going to increase that by 2, increase the editor layer by 1, and also half space this down like that. Just repeating the process over and over again. So there's going to be 7 layers to this. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 different layers. They're all on the same color, but they're going to get covered up at different times. Okay, so on editor layer 8 now, I've got a big long strip like that. It's on scale 2. The bottom layer of this is going on B3 and -19, so just one above the bottom layer of this, which is on editor layer 1, -20, as you can see. So when this is covering, you'll notice that only that layer is covered up in that strip. Then this strip is going to get copy pasted, scaled down to 1.75. Then the editor layer is going to be moved 2 up. Just repeating the process with intervals of 0.25 on the scale. So the next one's going to 1. And then we increase the Z order by 2 again. And the finale, 0.5. This is going on -7. I've copy pasted the strips a little bit so it covers up the screen with little 1 block gaps like so. It's getting added to 18, which is a low opacity. Then the next 3, which is 102. And this is going to move right on the portal. Just lock into the X-axis for now, and we'll figure out move time, which will just move it back across the screen like 200 blocks or something in 10 seconds. I don't know, this is just a very brief guess. Oh my god, I've got a banger, I've got a banger, I've got a banger on my hands. This is so trippy. I've flipped the effect onto the top blocks as well, and it is looking beautiful. Yeah, this is the best I can really do with the floating structures since I can't copy and half space them down. It's probably going to work, but it's just going to be a little bit weird in the process. I think it's one of those things where it's going to knock my confidence until I can properly find the way to tie it in. So I've redone the slopes right here. Bold move, I know, but the slopes are now in a diagonal form like this, and then they're half spaced to move back like this in the same format. You just move it up on the Z order by +2 every time. Same groups and colors as before, but you'll notice when I go into preview mode, damn, you get an epic, like, appearing effect on those. That is so cool looking. Holy crap. I mean, it's barely possible at the moment because you can barely see what you're doing. But imagine this with a block design and some pulses and stuff on. Sheesh! With effects like this, there comes a lot of decision. And I've come to the conclusion that these floating objects in the middle of the part kind of take away from the immersion that the other blocks give you. Since they don't follow the same format, they don't really tie in. The half opacity thing I've just tried doesn't work either. So I'm going to try and rework these floating structures into the blocks. Okay, so here are the new wave structures, and while I'm at it, I might as well show you these cube structures as well. It may look ridiculous in the editor, but you'll see in normal mode, once I turn on no clip, because this is ridiculously hard to see at the moment without any effect on the outlines of the blocks, that it's very cool looking once it's applied to literally everything. Like, god damn. I love this so much, man. I'm gonna sneeze. Oh my god. I think that's the first time I've ever sneezed when recording. I'm in slow motion right now, and I want to show you a visual issue that I'm going to have to counter at the teleporters right here. So when you go through, it flashes the background, which shows that there is a mask right there. You saw that for a couple of frames. There was a little light that went in between the mask. Okay, so to stop this, I'm going to change the length of the alpha trigger just to stop right where this blue pad is. Copy paste it, and then right after it's fading back to 0.6 for 2 seconds. I'm then going to copy these triggers and put them on group 102, which is our mask opacity. When the blending screen goes to full opacity, the mask is going to get turned off and it's going to go back to full opacity right after. So at this point, it's kind of like the flash of light is giving you a little bit of vision as you go through these portals. The blocks become visible and you can't see the flashing light in between the mask, which is a dub. And then at the end of this little alpha trigger moment, color 1 gets faded down to black, so all the blocks go invisible, and that will leave just an outline going into this part. So to bring in a bit more visibility to the level so far, I've added some white pulses to bring in some actual brightness to the level, make it feel a bit more snowy and wintry. With a few tweaks to fade times and opacities, I'm pretty happy with this color scheme for this part. The effect's still strong, but I've also got some nice looking pulses in there. Before I start making the decoration, I want to see how these filler blocks would look if they had don't fade and don't enter removed, to give them some block transitions, and at the same time I want to give these top layers high detail, because as you can see they consume 8,700 objects, which is ridiculous. What I like about this is that the level's still functional in low detail mode. The effect still kind of works. It's just a lot more impressive when you have full detail on. You get the full layering and the full effect going. I don't think the block transitions make much of a difference, but it's nice to have them there. I've started adding some glowy details in between the structures, and you'll notice that I've added some pulsing circles above the saws. I kind of want to add more and more white details that don't fade on the sides of the screen and go above all of the masks. On editor layer 9, we've got some black blending glow strips that are on half opacity and a new group 104, T1 just like the other white details. I'm going to copy these pulse triggers that are pulsing the level to white. I'm going to give them the new group 104. I feel like these pulses are going to be the best way to add more white detail into the level, because anything that is white above all of the masks just sticks out like a sore thumb, like these little white circles above the saws. These beams are subtle because they've got half opacity on them. I think they slide right in with the rest of the colour, especially with the white pulses that go across the level anyway. I just want to add some more white detail with pulses. I'm not quite sure how to put this into words, so I might stutter a little bit in this sentence, please excuse me. I just really like this pulse because you can use it really effectively with black blending to stop your level from getting clustered. You can use a lot of detail and not worry because it's constantly getting turned on and off, and you know that the detail's only going to be there when the level is pulsing. Because here, I've got a lot of circles and arrows and stuff that's just floating in midair, but it's quickly getting whisked away. So as a result, you get both periods where there's a lot of detail and periods where the effect is like really dominant and taking up a lot of the screen. In the moments where there's not much detail, the effect really takes your focus, and that's how I wanted it to be from the start. Also, this is how it looks in low detail mode. I don't think there's much of a problem here, honestly, and we're saving like 8,000 objects, so it's pretty well optimized. But yeah, that's pretty much the end of this building episode. We've made a lot of progress here, and there's a lot you didn't see because there was a lot of tampering with opacity, fade times, how the effect would move and stuff. So I don't know how long this video is going to be, but hopefully you enjoyed anyway. I still don't know about the visibility. Maybe it'll get changed at some point because that wave part's kind of devious. Thank you for watching this Geometry Dash building episode. Check the links in the description for my Twitter, Twitch, Instagram and Discord server. Leave a like and subscribe, and have a good day. Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome back to another episode in the High Spirits building series. We're back, keeping up the Monday, Friday upload schedule for these building videos. Last time, we made this crazy wave part, which probably has one of my best effects ever, even though it reuses a concept from my level Trippy Trip. No, Trip Trippy, bruh. I still get these mixed up. Trip Trippy and Trippy Trip. Me looking for the person who asked. In this episode, I need to make this build-up section, which needs to be quite climactic, obviously, because the level is getting lighter and more fancy as it's going on. So I'm going to build up a transition by changing the background to white on a 2-second fade time just like that. Adding a new alpha trigger for the blending screen that's covering the whole level up to full opacity, just align it with that slow speed trigger. This then needs to fade back off for about 2 seconds after this happens. At this point in the level, I've still got the glow overlay on that's kind of shrouding the level. I've got an alpha trigger right here that just turns it off very sneakily when the blending screen is on full opacity. At the same time, I'm also going to see a return with the black screen overlay that we used in the beginning to make sure that the white doesn't like blind you. But that can't be on full opacity, that needs to be on about 0.4. So with that swiftly fixed, here is how our part is looking. It's looking very grey, and I like that the visibility is back up. For the last couple of parts, you've had your visibility limited with that glow overlay. To have it finally disappear right before the drop is a nice touch, and it gives me a little bit more potential to like add progression into the level. God damn, this gameplay kind of sucks, doesn't it? I've just completed that part in UFO, just casually. Who knows, maybe next episode when we're making the drop we can tweak that gameplay, because it is very repetitive. I did see a lot of people complain about that. So at this point of the level, a lot of the objects are invisible. I'm thinking of introducing a fading line that then works into this block design in the following part. I need to start off the level with a base of black objects just like these, but not the actual black objects since you can't change the color of them later. We're going to be using these regular objects that you can change the color of. We're just going to set them to black. Alright, we have got the base blocks in. I need to turn off the block transitions because they don't fit with how the level's feeling at this point, but you get the idea. It's just big long black pillars. There should be some decoration overlaying them so you can't just see that they're straight cut on the sides, but this will do for now. In the transition of this part, I'm going to be changing the color of the blocks very slowly on a 5-second fade time or so, just to a nice blue. I also want 7 to make a comeback, turning it up to 0.4 opacity for about 5 seconds as well. As this part goes on, I want it to be a bit more of a royal blue again. Just before the drop, it's going to change to this nice lighter shade of blue instead of being around this end of the color wheel. So at the beginning of the build up, everything is grey, then it slowly gets more and more blue. The background gets tinted blue after the cube portal, as you can see, and then as you go into the wave, there's a release of the blue color on the screen. Alright, so here comes the glow outlines that I mentioned earlier. That's going to bridge in the new part from the old, just like so. On black blending, it's getting a new group, 106, and it needs to be on T1. It's going to have don't fade and don't enter, and at the very beginning, it's going to have a very fast fade in of 0.1, fade off for 1, and then the group ID will get added. Alright, so to give every object this glow format, I'm just going to copy the left edge of the glow, using build helper every time to give them new groups with the triggers selected as well. In fact, I'm going to move all of these pulse triggers back a consistent distance of 5 blocks to the left, so that these lines begin to pop up just before you land on the block. It gives you a bit of better vision. I didn't know how to format it onto the slopes, so I need to think of a workaround for that, but I'm confident it's going to look nice on the edges of the blocks. I'm absolutely gutted. I've just made so much progress on this level and forgot to start recording. Basically, you missed me tamper with a bunch of colors and pulses and stuff. I finished the little glow pieces on the tops of the blocks. You'll see there's rotating snowflakes there that invert as the level gets brighter. Oh my goodness, you've missed out on quite a lot. But I can't lie, some of this work was tedious, so you haven't missed out on much. Basically, I made these snowflakes out of 3D lines, as you can see, these objects and these objects. They rotate as a whole around this glow piece that's on top of the object, also on the same color channel 8, which is a pure white color channel I made specifically for these snowflakes, and at the transition right here, they invert very quickly to black, just as a little stylistic change. Okay, so for the background in this spider part, I have set out a line of these snowflakes that we made earlier. I just scaled them down to 0.5 just so they fit in a 1 block radius. So I've done some shenanigans with the portals. As you can see, I've done the portal trick with this one on group 105 that just moves it down by -10 on the Y, so that the borders of the gameplay can be one higher. There's another portal here that lowers those borders by another one. So to make this work, I need to give all of these snowflakes a new group, 150, which is going to be locking to the player X as you hit this slow speed portal. And while it's at it, it's going to move 200 on the X in 8 seconds. By the way, these snowflakes are going on a brand new color channel 11, which is going to copy the color of the background, and it's going to be just a smidgen darker. So right here, when you hit the red orb, these objects need to move down by -10 in a very brief time. In between, there's going to be a big fat snowflake that is scaled 2 times, and it's on a brand new color channel 12, which has -0.1 of the brightness of color channel 11. So there's just going to be a few shenanigans in the background like so. It's looking modernistic. That movement is not pretty at all. Honestly, we can probably extend the duration of this to 2 seconds or so it smoothly moves down so you barely notice it. Just perfecting their movement right now. They're accelerating towards the player instead of just moving consistently, as you can see, and then they fade out nicely as the drop comes in like that. Because I despise toggle transitions when they're not done properly. I like a smooth transition, something different that's not just a black screen or a toggle. So these are on B4 and -5. New opacity, this is going to be on 0.05 at the very beginning of the level for group 152. I think it's quite a nice number to remember because it's like 15, which is half opacity, but 2, so it's like more low opacity, you know? Just making some low opacity shapes that can kind of fill up that space in the background. Now we're talking. The background's getting groovy with some shapes now. I want to stack these up and make some depth. So I can select all of the bottom slopes like so, copy paste them down, which will stack the 0.05 opacity. Give it a new group 151. Oh, Nelly, I forgot to layer it. Okay, so now we need a move trigger right here for 151 that moves it 200 in the sky. Start, stop, and then we can go and collect it in the sky and give it a new editor layer. I'm a genius. So that secondary layer is moving 300 away from the player. I'm going to make a new one that's 153 that's going to move 300 towards the player. So I'm hoping that when it all stacks up, it's going to make some nice overlaying effects that kind of fill up that empty space in the background in between these snowflake layers. Although I've noticed that the snowflakes on the top and bottom are kind of getting blended in with the rest. So if I give all of the massive snowflakes 155 and all of the small snowflakes 154, instead of being on -0.06 and -0.16, they can go to something like -0.4. So 154 will go, then 10 blocks later 155. Then they could just go on loop like this, so they get darker, then brighter, then darker again, then brighter again. The snowflakes that overlay the blocks are on B3. I'm going to promote them. I don't know why I just said promote. I'm going to change them to B2. Then on the very bottom layer of B2, I know this is very similar to some other parts in the level, but I want to pass through some white beams that go on top of the blocks. They're on low opacity, which is group 15. They're on the moving group 150. Okay, I've just seen these on 15. You don't want to know how they've just looked. They're going on 18 instead. I'm placing the start pause further back just to see the damage that I need to fix with the transition in. But these low opacity white beams are just going to sit on top of the level like this, make it shine a bit more. Very similarly to the intro, I just kind of wanted to make that link from start to finish again. This is still looking kind of messy. I think I need some low opacity glow around the edges of the blocks here. Or I could literally just copy all of these objects. Oh, not the glow though. I need to select, filter out all of the glow and put it on editor layer 2. And then I can manually select and move these spikes onto layer 2 as well. We could literally just copy all of these blocks, move them half space up and right, put them on the next Z order down, put them on like low opacity black or something like that, I don't know. In fact, to do it more originally, I'm going to put them on a new editor layer by themselves. I'm going to move them 2 up, copy paste, 2 down, 2 to the right, copy paste, 2 left, 2 down, copy paste, 2 up and 2 left, copy paste. And then that makes a nice little outline around the edges of the blocks. It's super inefficient, but I still need to go through and sweep it up anyway, so I might as well just leave it like this for now. Now, I did notice at the end of this part that the transition was absolutely horrid. I don't know how this is going to work. I might just toggle it all on that really bright pulse right there. But yeah, the blocks are looking really defined now with that kind of shadow around them. definitely doesn't work for the saw. I kind of forgot about that, but... Oh no, actually, I could just edit the special of these and put them all on 30. Just thinking about the transition right now, I could probably just set 150 to invisible back there, and then just put a new trigger in that just fades on right when that screen goes really bright. Here we go. Yeah, that works honestly. It works with the shh of the song. I'm also going to test it on 0.1 speed slow motion just so I can spot any visual issues that I've got here. It doesn't seem like there's going to be an issue with this transition. I think it works perfectly fine. It's just on a 0.1 fade time, so there's no issues with like light overlaps or anything. The way I've done the low opacity look of the background is literally just by copying the color white of the background and reducing the brightness of it instead of using opacity, so there's no issue there. So my main issue at the moment is finding a decoration that's not going to be clustered with the stuff in the background. Also a little bit extra structuring. I'm not a fan of the saw. It's really useful to play stuff in slow motion on Mega Hack V6 because you can spot stuff that you don't like super easily without worrying about dying or the gameplay or anything. I'm just plonking these arrows around as we're going on. They're using a low opacity version of color channel 1, which is the same color as the blocks. It's on 15, then there's just a white arrow on top. I don't know, I just think it looks cool. I know this is really weird, but I'm actually quite happy with what I've done in this episode. It's super messy and raw, but I kind of like the feel of it, you know, it's got charm, unlike a lot of other stuff that I've made. Like, I should be adding a lot more structure in, some saws, all that stuff, but I kind of like just having this open as like a nice little break in between that fast, crazy looking wave part that actually lags me in the editor. I don't know if you can see this right now. And then this drop, which is going to be flashy and snowy and stuff. I just feel like I've kind of nailed it with this undershadowing on the blocks, how it's not really consistent on the edges due to the slopes. I'd imagine that on stream, when I verify this near the end of the month, that I'll make tweaks to this part, add a couple more details here and there, but for now, I'm actually happy with it, and I have no idea why. Like, there's no design or anything in the blocks. I just think it's well themed, and it kind of links in with the beginning. I don't want to take away from that or ruin it, so yeah, I'm calling this episode quits here. I don't even know how long it is. This could literally be like 6 minutes or so, but thank you for watching this Geometry Dash building video. Check the links in the description, leave a like and subscribe, become a member, and have a good day. Whoa, it's Wulzy, nominee for the Best Effect Creator of 2020. Welcome back to another building video on the High Spirits series. Thank you. I know, I've only released 2 levels this year, but apparently that was enough to land me a spot on the Geometry Dash 2020 awards. I don't quite know how that's happened, to be honest, but we're back with High Spirits. I don't know how this is going to go, but in this video I want to at least make a start on the drop of this level, redesign some of the gameplay to make it less repetitive and less dumb, because it's kind of buggy at the moment. I don't know how I'm going to get the whole thing done. I might split the drop in half and do an episode each. Next Sunday at 7 PM British time, I will be verifying this level, which leaves Monday and Friday this week to basically finish off the level. So I'm thinking of splitting the drop in half, doing half of it in this episode, half of it of next episode, and then maybe on the verification stream I can fix some stuff up like the dash orb transition. I want to put a logo in here, fix up the ship transition, and just make the level more solid. But first things first, let's take out the trash. It needs more blocks like this. That's what it was missing. Adding a few saws in there, a couple of double clicks on the portals. We got some slopes here to end off the UFO section as well. I'm also going to change this jump to a yellow orb inside of the portal instead of a platform like that. Okay, so wave into the UFO like this. Sheesh, okay. I also want to change a few timings in the second iteration of this repetitive cube section. So on the second time, there's a yellow orb and a black orb, just like that, with the timing on the edge of the platform. I want to keep the wave part the same, and then I want to change that jump right there. I read a lot of comments about the repetition and how easy the drop is, so I've added a couple of things like double clicks in the UFO, just to change up the flow, make it a little bit different. As you can see, there's some slopes, and then there's a couple of curveballs in this cube section as well, some extra timings, and then this thing, boom, and then that leads you straight onto the end. Awesome. Alright, I want to try some different gravy with the structuring in this part. I'm taking a couple of objects on the bottom of the level, copy pasting them, moving them a block down, and half spacing them to the left, and repeating that until I get a nice pyramid shape. Then, starting from the bottom, I copy paste, move to the right, select the next layer, and just keep on doing that over and over again until it actually forms a pyramid shape, like that. I think these are looking pretty good. They're looking nice with the block transitions on the sides, and I think that the snowstorm foreground that I'm going to add as an effect is going to look pretty good on them too. As for the rest of the blocks, I'm probably going to structure them as normal. Alright, so now that I've got the base blocks in place, which are just black on black, I'm going to start making some pulses for this section. In the beginning, where the blending screen is still lowering in its opacity, there's not going to be any pulses for the background because I want it to feel like a release, but as soon as you get into the cube section, the background's going to start pulsing, so it gets more intense as you get to the end. So for these pulse triggers, we've got a 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 fashion that pulses them to bright blue, but every set of 4, I'm thinking of changing the blue to be a bit more light, to the point where it even turns a little bit green, and that's going to have a 1 second fade out at the very end. The black blocks are already being uplifted by a blending screen, which makes it so when they aren't pulsing, they aren't 100% black, which makes these pulses fit in a lot more nicely in my opinion. You can see them getting a bit more blue towards the end, starting to get green now, and then they are green at the very end just to finish off that level on a weird note. The background is already white at this part. The only reason it's displaying as grey is because of the group 8 black overlay that I've got on about 0.4 at the moment. This is going to get turned off on the 0.1 fade in. Then I need to find the end of this pulse trigger with a 0.3 fade back to 0.4. Like here, just need to align the duration line like that. Then I can just apply these at the exact same point as the pulse triggers for the sync. So for the last one, instead of fading on a 0.1 fade time to 0, I'm just going to change the fade time to 2. So I'm hoping the last pulse is going to be a bit more climactic than the rest, a bit different. Here we go, we're coming up to it now. I like this background flash actually. There we go, and then it just fades to white at the end. Awesome. Now it's time to make the snowstorm background and foreground. I want to have a couple of layers to this, some that go over the top of the blocks and some that go behind the blocks. Using a new color channel 14, which is grey blending, we'll place one scaled up piece of glow, copy paste it, move it 3 to the right, and just keep on doing that over and over again until we get a big long line like this. Then I'm going to copy paste, move it 2 up and 1 to the right. Copy paste again, 2 up, 2 to the left. Copy paste again, 2 up and 1 to the right. Oh, I've accidentally copied some glow from earlier on. Okay, so this is like a little diagonal pattern. These are going to be on B2. That makes it so they go over the top of the blocks. And now I'm going to copy these pulse triggers, move them down, give them the color channel 14, and they're going to be set to white. So at certain points you get this super bright look to the glow. So this is all going to be set to group 161, which I'm going to move to editor layer 4. At the same time, I'm going to add them to another new group 162. I'm going to move them into place like this, so I can just lock to the x-axis straight away on 161. I also need to set up alpha triggers so that they fade on with a 0.1 fade time right here, and then they can get turned off earlier before you can possibly see them. That's 171, just like so. So you can see it's slowly moving towards the player on the foreground, but behind this, there's going to be a couple more layers that go behind the blocks, and they're going to be moving faster to make a little effect there. Behind this top layer of glow and the blocks on B3, I'm going to be adding some different glow that's on editor layer 5 on a new group 163, and this is going to be half opacity black, so it needs to be group 15, I think. Group 163 can move -600 and -150. This should move at different rates and have a different layer of glow. That's not very apparent though when you're first looking at it. I kind of forgot that color channel 9 is pulsing away from black. I'm going to add a new color that's just black. I've decided that this level needs more power. Oh my god. The front layer is getting moved to -800 and -200. Then the layer behind it can go -400 and -1200. Because it's not really feeling stormy. There we go. The stuff's moving a lot more noticeably now. I think I need some alpha stuff going on. 162, you can fade off to 0 opacity first. Then at the end of your duration line, you can fade back up. There's 30 blocks between these, so I'm going to copy paste them, 15 blocks along, and that's going to do the same for group 163, which is our black. So that's going to vary the aesthetic by making it bright at some times and dark at some times, just making the snowstorm feel a little bit different, and to give some more space for decoration, because I felt like the bright areas were way too bright when they were like on screen the whole time. I'm now making a test for how it looks without half opacity on the black glow. I don't like it, it's not good. And then to finish off this snowstorm background, there's going to be yet another layer behind the black, which is on group 164, and it's on blending, the same as the foreground, but half opacity on 15. It's not going to move any different on the Y, but on the X it's moving 2000 now. I can't see it. That's weird. Maybe I should change the color of this to copy the color that's in the blocks on B4. And this can have its own pulse, which is on group 164, on a 5-second loop. So it's fading off for 5 seconds, then fading back on for 5 seconds. It's not very noticeable, but hopefully when I add some detail, it'll be obscured in different ways and it'll make the background stand out more. There's a lot of glow here, but I think I can make it look quite tasteful with the details. So to test, I've added some pulsing circles inside the UFO part. I think they blend in pretty well, even though they're a different color, which is good because this effect is now allowing all of my colors to mesh together, as well as the blending screen going on top, obviously. I'm adding a new pulse right now for color channel 6, which is normally white. I'm going to pulse it down to black. When I'm playing in slow motion right now, you can see that I've added some saws on the B3 layer, which go behind the blocks, and when they're white, they don't just blend into the background because there's the glow behind that makes them pop out. I think this short black pulse looks really original and makes them stand out a little bit more, which is what I like. Playtesting this right now, I can't deny it looks very strange, but I think it looks kind of fire, and I think it works as the drop for this level. There's a couple of saws in between that I do need to tweak and fix because they don't work with the saws, but what works really well is this white background pulse with the black saw pulse at the same time. I think they complement each other very well, and I love the way it's looking. This is actually kind of fire, I was not expecting this. I still need to figure out designs and decoration for this part, so as predicted, I'm not going to be finishing this whole part in this video. I'm just going to be adding the most essential details for now, like the half opacity black circles around the portals, and the full opacity black circles that show you the way. I'm also going to figure out a way to connect these objects down here to the ground, so there's not just a floating object there. But then yeah, other than that, that's this video pretty much done. I don't think a single thing in this part is on don't fade and don't enter, so everything has the block transitions, including the background, which is unconventional, but it's working obviously. Unless you don't like the part, then it's not working. But yeah, I think these pulsing circles are pretty fire. They are pulsing very wide, which works for the kind of energy that I want to convey in this part. For these last 3 circles, I'm going to change the second one to half opacity and the one on the end to I think 20%? I don't 100% remember, but you can see that they kind of fade out there. To make the level feel a little bit more connected, I might just add these little shadow things. The top ones are on group 18 and the bottom ones are on group 15. They're just low opacity connecting blocks really. It's time to test it out now. Hopefully it doesn't stick out too much. It is quite a low opacity. Yeah, it blends right in with the other details, which I like. My only slight worry is how many floating objects there are in this cube section. But as I said earlier, they are low opacity, so I don't really have much to worry about with these. I've got an issue with this spike block that it kind of overlaps with this object. There, ladies and gentlemen, we have the solution. Just make the top block one of the pyramid blocks. I think it's going to work. This should be the final test for this version of the level. As I said, in the next episode on Friday, I will be finishing off this part with extra details. It may be optimizing the rest, adding like a title screen somewhere. I don't know how it's going to work, but I probably will be finishing the level in the next episode. And boom, that is what I've made in this video. I'm really happy with it. I think a lot of people might disagree, but I think it looks pretty nice. Anyway, thank you for watching this Geometry Dash building video. Check the links in the description. You find my Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, and Discord server. Leave a like and subscribe, and have a good day. Whoa, 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 Merry Christmas. It is Wulzy here, back with another building video on the High Spirits series. I want to finish this level today. I'm gonna break the fourth wall and tell you that I am indeed recording this on Christmas Eve, not Christmas Day. I am spending Christmas with my family. I am not playing Geometry Dash and recording a video instead. We're back with high spirits. Now, I'm not gonna be balancing or changing anything to do with the gameplay in this video. I'm gonna be doing that on stream. God damn, this looks ridiculous. I'm just gonna be tweaking certain areas of the level, making it feel more complete, more whole. Now, you've probably clocked that I'm using a new mic. Yes, this is an Elgato Wave 1. It's popping. I mean, it's not popping because I've got a pop filter, but this ship definitely needs a bit of work with that toggle orb and the transition in, maybe even the transition out. I noticed there's a default saw there, and it's just kind of awkward how it works. I also want to fill the gap in between the robot and the wave right here when you hit the pad and go up, because I think that's a bit strange. This part should all be fine. Maybe I'll fix a couple of things here, because that transition isn't exactly the cleanest. I just need to fix the empty spots to make them still empty, but not as empty, because that's what I want this level to be. I also need block design in this part and some extra things to fill in the gaps. I need to design the saws. There's still a lot left to do, even though the level's pretty much done at this point. I should probably optimize this level, by the way, because this wave part is making me drop hella frames. I'm on 240 right now, when I should be on 288. But then again, I do want to keep a lot of things to stream, so I'm not just like streaming for 10 minutes and it's one and done. So maybe the optimization can come later, because it doesn't really matter for this video. I'd rather make progress rather than like stripping back the level. But yeah, first things first, I need to finish off this part. This is the most important thing to do first. These saws are on layer B3 and 1. So on top, on B3 and 2, I'm going to slip on some low opacity black glow. Well, actually, all of the black in this section pulses to different colors, as you can see. So it looks pretty cool on the saw as it is, but I want more detail on top. I'm going to be using triangles for the majority of the decoration on the saws, and this is going to be on color channel 13, which is just white. Above that glow, so it needs to be on B3 and 3 on the Z order. And I'm going to give it a group. Just shift it into place like that. Now, it doesn't make much sense at the moment, but once it's on a lot more saws, it will make sense. It's scaled up to 1.5 on the big ones. These are the moments where I wish I'd added this decoration before I copy-pasted and half-spaced all of these saws. Now, I've set out the green line so I can tell exactly where the player goes, and I'm going to spread these out just a little bit more because there's not too many of these. I kind of want to incorporate them more. So the strat here is to put in all of the big saws first, then the slightly bigger ones, and then finally the mini ones. Now, it may seem a bit ridiculous to add so many saws into the level, but once I get the triangle thing going with the plan I have in mind, I think it's going to be quite cool. I don't think my idea would be as effective with very few saws. Alright, let's see how our brand new saws look in this UFO part and onwards. I kind of like them. This white on them kind of brings in this white pulse as well. Kind of makes it feel in place. Very cool. I don't think there's too many saws. I think there's just the right amount. And then that's the ending right there. Alright, so if you hear in the song right now, there's kind of a sound in the background. I want to replicate that by adding a rotation trigger for group 165, which rotates them 90 degrees on 0 move time. Then as that sound fades out in the song, I'm going to make them slower. So you can see the gap between the rotation triggers gets bigger every time. I've extended the rotation triggers to the beginning of the wave, and I kind of want to use these pulsing arrows on color channel 6, which is the same one as the saws, on B3 and 3, so it sits on top of the blocks. Then we can add some glow that complements that, just like we did before. Now, I don't want to put this on every single object because it would get very repetitive, but I'm just going to spread it around, just like I did with the saws. The big one is going first. Boom. There's just a little bit more decoration on the blocks and stuff. I like it. I really like this head spinning feel, you know? I also changed the level to blue at the end. I don't know if you realized. In the last episode, this was originally turning green, but I changed it back to blue because it was too outlandish. I want to test something. On editor layer 3, at the very bottom end of B4, I want to try and put these blocks in a pillar format like so. Low opacity as hell, but also on group 165, so these checkerboards kind of rotate with the music. You can see them through the saws. That's kind of an issue. My solution to that is to just strategically place them so you can't see them through the saws. There's only 3 of them in place at the moment. I just want to see how they look before I commit to them. You know what? That actually works as decoration. I love that. And here we go. They are all in place just like that. And that's just some subtle decoration, low opacity. It just kind of blends in with what's going on. It's not foreground or background really. It just kind of slinks in. Honestly, I think I'm going to leave it there for the drop. I kind of want to embrace the emptiness that this has. I want to let the glow do its thing. I don't want to add much more detail because I don't want it to get smudged by any of the other details. And I think the rotation effect kind of speaks for itself. I mean, it's not really an effect, it's more of a display thing. So next on my hit list, I kind of want to add some saws to the beginning, since there are none. And I kind of want to scale down some of those spiky objects there. This was a nice suggestion by someone in the comments. I just kind of want to vary the size of a few of these. I want to keep the copy-pasted look to it. I didn't think that word would ever come out of my mouth, but I kind of like the aesthetic of that. So I just want to tone down the size of some of these at random scales, mainly 75%, but I do want to dabble in a 0.6 here and there, a 0.8. Maybe I could have a few that are really small towards the end. The main motive for this is because some of them overlap each other and it looks kind of awkward, so by scaling some of them down, I can avoid that. It looks a bit tidier, which I like. This transition needs to get gone. I need a title screen in there. I need a transition for the ship section that doesn't just bring the block in like that. It needs to fade on and off, you know, the smooth look. But before that, I do want to sneak in a couple of saw blades that have a 10-degree rotation. Barely anything. There's not much point to these since you can't really hit them, but I'm just making up for a little bit of empty space here and there next to the blocks. You'll notice that I gave them one of the floating, moving things, a group ID, that's what it's called. So it kind of dances around with the rest, you know, it's not just statically there. Alright, portal. Portal, you are getting group 1. Invisible. Also invisible, I want to add some little blocks here that center you in the dash orb. What layer are these overlays? These are the ones I should be concerned about. T2 and 1 and T3 and 13. Jeez. Okay, I know this is silly, but I want to spell out high spirits with triangles like this. There's a H, there's an I. This is coming together actually. High. I'm just going to copy this part of the G to use for the P. I'll copy this part of the H to use for the R. Let me just grab the bottom edge of the P for the T, and I can just extend that crossover. That's a better R than the actual R. Holy moly. No, it's not. No, it's not. Give me that back. Extend the top up a bit, move it along, and then we can probably just move it along like that. Spirit. Then the S can go on the end, and I can probably just center this. I was thinking that the capital S could go like before the kick of the G, but I can just put it right in between the eyes like that. Sweet. So let's have a look in an inverted form, black on white instead of white on black. It's not awful. It could be a lot worse. I think the T kind of needs to be straightened up a little bit like that. But other than that, I think I've smashed it. That's all going to pulse. So this needs to be on group 166, which can lock to the X just before this dash orb. Then move towards the player, about 100 on the X backwards for about 5 seconds. So this is going on T3, way up there. 166 should be set to invisible, way back here. Then as the player fades across, it should fade in for about 3 seconds to full opacity. Oh, that looks so cool. And then it can probably like fade off or something, I don't know. Oh, how cool would it be if it faded off right as you hit that yellow pad? So on a 0.1 fade time like that, half space it to the side just so the duration line matches up. Alright, this is my first time seeing it from zero. I really want to see if I've banged it first try. I think there's going to be something that I need to change, like the fade in or the fade out. But here we go, I'm about to see it for the first time in game, pulsing. Oh, that's sick. Oh my god. You get hidden, you get shown. The highest any object in this part goes is B3 and -1, if I'm not mistaken. So on B2 and 1, just above all of the objects in this part, there's going to be a big gradient that covers until you pass over it. Then this is going to smoothly move away and the whole level will be revealed. I think that's enough. It's on group 167. There's going to be a move trigger right about here that moves it 300 on the x-axis, ease in for about 2 seconds, just like that. So the level's invisible at this point. Apart from that overlay thing, obviously. I kind of forgot to make 167 lock to the x-axis as well. I'm gonna set that for about 10 seconds just to be safe. So I've tried a whole bunch of numbers and I've found that moving it 220 to the right on ease in and 2 seconds works the best, just so you get a nice smooth transition like that. It's like a wipe in a video editing software. Let's not forget to turn it off after it moves off screen, just like that. In fact, I'm going to extend 167's move time to the max, toggle it back on towards the end, just right about here, and then 167 can move back towards the player about 250 blocks on an ease in, 2-second movement. There's just a few things I've got to remember, such as turning this on to don't fade, and also since it's sharing a color channel with something else that's on screen here, I've got to pulse it to white, just like that. Then right here, I can hide the player, select everything in the level, give it a new group 169, and this is going to be toggled at the same spot. So the level's popping, it's popping, you go up, you hit the dash orb, it fades to white, and then, why didn't the player, oh, I toggled off the hide trigger, I'm dumb. Let's try that again, toggle everything off, and then it should just go to white at the end. Sweet. I'm also going to add this cheeky little color trigger at the end. In fact, I'm going to make it 60 seconds, because 99999 was a bit ridiculous. It would take a whole day for you to spot that. So, if you sit here and wait patiently, the level will turn blue. When I made the caved in episode, I remember seeing a couple of comments about how anticlimactic this button press was. So on T1, black blending, group 168, I'm going to pulse this beam. One thing I want to try with this text before I move on to the next part is copy pasting it, moving it down on the Z order by 1, moving it 1 to the right, 1 up, and changing the opacity to half. Then doing the same with group 18 on another copy. There's a few changes to this part. I changed the layering of that beam that pulses on the toggle orb, and I've also changed the structuring towards the end of this flying part. Damn, those spikes do not work properly at all. There we go. They're supposed to just be on black the whole time. And the benefit of using those ground spikes is that the level feels a lot more connected than it was before. It doesn't just extend into the sky, and they kind of guard the portal, making sure you can't just fly past it and cheat. And that right there, ladies and gentlemen, is the end of the High Spirit building series. I'm not going to show the whole level in one go, but I will be streaming the verification on Sunday at 7 PM GMT, and hopefully Viperant is going to upload his footage of this level a couple of hours before so you can get a full showcase before I verify it, build up some hype, blah blah blah. And yeah, as soon as I verify it on Sunday, this level will be published to the servers, and then Monday's video will be the showcase of the level. But yeah, I've had a blast with this building series. I enjoyed making this series more than I did make Build Week. I just think I've done a good job with this level. It's probably the most original thing I've made. I just like building without worrying about the rating standards and making everything feel full, when you can just embrace emptiness and make it look nice still. And also, I was using Discord Rich Presents to see how long I've spent making this level. Across all 3 copies, I've spent less than 12 hours making this level, so that just goes to show that you can make something substantial in no time at all. And I've had a blast, so thank you for watching this building series. I've really loved it. Hopefully you come to the stream on Sunday. I'll be there, obviously. Bada bing, bada boom. Thank you for watching this Jomsh Dash building video. Hope you've had a fantastic Christmas. I think I'm uploading this on Christmas Day. I'm pretty sure I am. Check the links in the description. Leave a like and subscribe, and have a good day. Whoa, it's Wulzy. Welcome everyone, whether you're a viewer of the live stream or the YouTube video, to the final stretch of the High Spirit building series. I'm assuming you've all seen that early showcase on the Viperant channel. I gave him the level early so he could give it a whirl, as well as my tier 3 Whizzle Sizzler members. Shout out to everyone there for the support. Judging by their responses, just ignore that there's a bloodbath copy there, I can safely say that the level is finished, although I do want to briefly go about some optimization, since there's like 48,000 objects, just while the last people are rolling into the stream here. Then I'll get into the one attempt. I'm gonna beat this level so quickly, it's actually a joke. We need to get rid of all this dump right here. You see how much glow there is at the side? We need to get rid of this. It's important to get rid of all the unnecessary junk that's clogging up the level for no reason. And then we can probably delete like a big portion down here as well. That's already took away 3k objects. There's also some objects that are kind of like clustered in here that I need to get rid of. See, you don't have to be 100% efficient when you're optimizing stuff. It's just nice to like get the excess stuff, like the really bad stuff out of the way. If you guys just bear with me for about 5 minutes or so, I don't want to spend too long on this. I want to get the level out since I'm kind of dilly-dallying already. Oh, I have something to show you here. You can thank Arb for this. Arb took a copy of the level, and if you skip this yellow portal like that, and you go up the top of the UFO, I mean, it's going to be quite difficult for me to demonstrate, you get the penguin at the top. And here's the one attempt that I promised you as well, as long as I don't die here. I kind of reduced the borders for the wave gameplay and that, because they were a bit too difficult. I moved them down by about half a block either end. So it still appears that it's quite difficult, but you have a little bit more leeway than what it seems. I'm dropping frames because I'm recording and streaming at the same time, but I'm sure it's fine. I have optimized this glow after all. Okay, well that is a massive troll for you guys in chat. I seriously apologize for that. Oh no. Yo, we did it. Let's go. High spirits. You guys ready? 802 viewers. That was a nice message I saw in chat. Wear your coat. That's the one. Alright. Request stars. 10. Allow copy. Requires password. We'll make it all 5s, like normal. Let's not click unlisted. Hopefully we don't get unlisted bugged. I hear that Viperin is here, so if it does get bugged, then he can fix it. Boom! High spirits is done. It should be there. Oh no! Did I just update my unlisted version? Oh, hold up. Hold up, I've had a blunder, guys. I've had an absolute blunder. I updated the unlisted version. What am I doing? Oh no. Okay, wear your coat. I forgot to do that. Alright, we have to verify again. Oh my. Oh, the view count is dipping where people are going and looking for it. I'm so sorry. That's amazing though. Oh, only I could do that. Only I. I literally... Oh, I'm kicking myself, guys. I was literally thinking before the stream, like, I should probably delete the unlisted version because I'm going to forget. But no. I didn't want to revoke access from anyone who hadn't quite gotten to it yet in the member chat. Ah. What a Nelly. What an absolute Nelly I am. Alright, here we go. Here we go. Now we're actually doing the level. Yeah. We did it. Again. 20 minutes into the stream and I've got nothing else to do. 876 viewers. The description's there. Wear your coat. 10 stars. Allow copy. Requires password. 55555. The GGs are in chat, thank you. Share. There we go. Now it should be there. Hopefully it's not unlisted. It's not unlisted. I can tell because there's like 50 million comments. Damn. Wait, let's go and catch it in the recent tab. Let's go, let's go. Recent. There it is. That's crazy. I can't believe that I uploaded it unlisted. After joking about the unlisted bug as well. Look at all these 1 second comments. Oh my, what an unreal feeling. Thank you guys so much. We gotta like our own level. We gotta rate it 10. And we gotta send our own level. Hell yeah. Password is 555. Yeah, you guys go and get your top comment. I back that fully. Restart the game quickly. How many comments have been made? 477 comments in, what, 2 minutes? pop off. Guys. What the... People want attempted it, surely. That's crazy. And I'm not going to waste your time. I'm going to end this here so you can go and enjoy the level. But my god, there's still a comment every second. That's mind-blowing. That's that. For the people watching the video, thank you for watching this Geometry Dash video. Hope you've enjoyed the High Spirits building series. Check the links in the description, leave a like and subscribe, and have a good day.